Hello and welcome to the follow-on, the Fox Cricket Podcast. I'm Courtney Walsh, the journalist, clearly not the West Indian cricket great, and I'm looking forward to the summer ahead. Joining us today is the former Australian wicketkeeper Brad Haddin. He donned the gloves, I think, in 66 tests, 126 one-day internationals, and 34 T20s. Had some Ashes success and some World Cup success along the way. And of course, he's a Fox cricket expert analyst for us this summer. Thanks for joining us, Brad, and really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Courtney. I know we've got a diverse team at Fox, but when I seen your face pop up, I was actually waiting for the great Courtney Walsh. I was getting sweaty palms thinking about facing him again.
Be fair to say that I'm both very, very slow. Couldn't hit the pitch, and no bounce from me. But did meet him when I was 8 years old, and it was really lovely to us that day. And what a career he had!
Yeah, what a career he had, and walking out with Michael Holding, that must be not intimidating for you, but intimidating for the men just about to stand in front of them both.
Yeah, absolute legends of the game, and that's probably apt with the West Indies coming to Australia, later this summer, which we'll touch on today. Maybe not quite as fearsome as what that amazing attack was back in the 80s and the 90s, but nonetheless, hopefully it'll be a competitive summer. Look, we may as well touch straight away. I suppose the last couple of days there's been lots of discussions about a couple of your former teammates. David Warner, Mitch Johnson wrote a fairly interesting column in the West Australian a couple of days ago, which has prompted some back and forth. You played with both men. It's an interesting, I suppose, role you're in terms of having excelled in cricket and then gone on to become a pundit. What's your take on what's unfolded over the last couple of days?
Yeah, Courtney, it's a really interesting one from where I'm sitting. There's been a bit more come out today that there was obviously messages exchanged, and the one thing for me, and take the selection debate out of it, this was a really strong Australian team that was selected. You pick guys in form, and looking at the squad, they all deserve their role in the team. But the interesting thing is, I played with both Davey and Mitch, and they've won World Cups together. They've won Ashes series together. They've gone into battle in the fiercest conditions side by side, and having played a lot with them, I've never seen any beef between them. So, from my point of view, that's an interesting path that it's taken over the last couple of days, and I like everyone. I'm a bit lost from where it came from with those two. But as I said, I played a lot of cricket with both, and not everyone gets on in cricket teams. You have different personality clashes, but you respect each other once you get across that white line. But these two, I never seen any beef between them in my time. So yeah, it's a strange event.
I suppose we talk about that, and just because you have, not everyone has to get in, as you say, to have great success, and that team that you were in was had enjoyed some great success through those years. So I know there's a reunion probably coming up next year for the World Cup. Might make for an interesting time around that dinner table. But look, to be fair, they've both said that at some stage they'd hope they'd work it out, and I'm sure that's probably the view of Australian cricket as well around the nation.
Yeah, I think that's the view of most. As I said, you go into battle side by side. You've had some great memories playing for Australia personally, but more as a team. Like the ones that stand out are the 2015 World Cup winning team for me. The 2014 Ashes where we clean swept England at home was an extraordinary summer, and an exciting summer to see the way the Australian public jump off the back of your success and enjoy their holiday season with the way you're playing. So yeah, let's hope they at some stage when the heat goes out of what's going on, that they're able to sit down and sort out what they need to.
Yeah, talking about World Cup successes, I know it's now about I suppose 10 or so days since that fantastic performance from the Australian cricket team in the ODI. I suppose, on reflection, what are your thoughts on what unfolded? And is there anything that sort of leapt out at you since then, since that success over India in that thrilling final?
Yeah, just looking back through the whole tournament, it was probably the resilience that the team showed, and the senior players standing up at important times. Australia pride themselves on peaking at the right time in tournament play, and tournament play is a different beast to anything we play. You've got to make sure you're playing the best cricket at the right time, and that a lot goes into that preparation from selectors, from players to support staff. And good example of that was being brave to keep Travis Head in the squad. Travis had a broken hand. There was a bit of doubt around whether he would come up, but the coach and the selectors and the senior management made a decision to say, no, he's important in our plans to win this World Cup. So they gave him extended time to get ready, and the rest is history there. And it was interesting after the first couple of losses and going into the third game against Sri Lanka, which I thought there's a couple of huge turning points in that game and got the momentum with the tournament back in Australia's favour. When I think Sri Lanka were none for 120 and Pat Cummins come in and he took the handbrake off. He said, give me the ball. I'm your leader here and I'll get this breakthrough. And he did. And then we've seen Sri Lanka crumble. But also off the back of that, there was a couple of poor fielding displays, which was un-Australian-like in the first two matches. And David Warner ran around the boundary, took a great diving catch. And all of a sudden, it looked like in the eyes of the players and everyone there, okay, now our tournament started. And to fast forward now to the final and the semi-final, what they put on display there was first class. Their attention to detail, in their preparation to get conditions right, the attitude they showed to make life uncomfortable for the opposition with the way they field was perfect timing. And to win the final in the fashion that they did, won the toss, sent the opposition in, read the conditions perfectly, and then for Travis Head to come out and play the way he did in the final after having half the tournament off, it was just perfect planning. And hats off to the group and probably the captain as well, who a bit of a legacy piece, I think, for Paddy with the way he led the team throughout that tournament and kept things calm, won big moments when he had to with the ball, and it was topped off by an unbelievable final and a well-deserved celebration.
Listened to Andrew McDonald last week, and one of the things that was, I suppose, he touched on was the rapid rotation of overs of bowlers, basically one over on, one over off. And he said he's not necessarily sure that Pat's fast bowling comrades and arms in terms of Hazelwood and Stark necessarily were all over the one over sort of initially, but he was able, they talked about it and it worked. As a keeper, is it difficult to keep to different bowlers from one over to the next if it's as rapid as that? Do you get used to that? Like Josh Inglis, I think, took a record 5 catches in the final, but is it a challenge for the keeper?
Oh, it can be, but that would have been planned. So from a keeping point of view, you would have known that that's what was going to happen. Your marks differently, and the one thing in a big event like that, as a keeper, you've got to be switched on every ball. You can't take 2 balls or 1 ball to get into the game. You need to be switched on from ball 1 because that's where you might get that half chance. And I thought it was really clever and brave tactics, because if you look at India leading into the finals, that they were flawless in everything they did. They handled the home conditions well, more the outside pressure of the expectation that comes with a home final. They had the 3 best fast bowlers in the tournament. They had the 2 best spinners, and all their batters were averaging 50. So for Australia to come up with a game plan to counteract that and to execute it, more importantly, under pressure, just shows that we got our timing of the tournament spot on.
I had a chat with an old colleague of mine yesterday, and he was talking about the fast bowling trio. Hazelwood, Stark, and a decade or so. And as I said, you played alongside them going back in 2015. Do you think at some stage down the track they'll sit there with a cold beer or a decent glass of red and think that's not a bad way? Because 2027's four years away. It's a long time, and they'll be 37, 35. Let's not write them off. You never write off a champion. But it's if that's the way that trio in one day is finish up, it'd be a nice way to remember it, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be a great reunion for those 3 when they're retired. I don't think we're going to see another 3 that complement each other so well as Z3s do. You've got the left arm pace and swing of Mitchell Starc. You've got the height and accuracy of Joshy Hazelwood, and you got a captain there in Paddy Cummins who can go up and down gears and recognises big moments as good as any other bowler in the modern game or before him. So the best thing for me about those three is they complement each other. There's no ego when they got the ball. They do different roles when they have to. And when they finish their career, they'll deserve a glass of red or a scotch or a beer or whatever their fancy is. And just to say, wow, we played a special time together. And they're also three really close mates that they've come through New South Wales cricket a lot together. So to be able to do that, yes, for New South Wales, graduate into the Australian team and have the dominant effect that they have, that they'll sit back and enjoy little moments in time when their time comes to pull the pin. But I think they've still got a lot of cricket left into them. I get the feeling that they want to leave a bigger legacy on the Test match arena, and I think we're going to see a lot more of these three.
I suppose with the World Cup over, we look to the summer ahead. Now it starts, I suppose, in a less official circumstances with the Prime Minister's 11 hosting Pakistan beginning on Wednesday in Monaco. Now you're a Canberra native. You played a few of these. The format's changed a little bit, I think, from probably when you were playing one days. But what are some of your memories of that, and where does it sit in terms of the calendar for you and honours?
Yeah, I tell you where it sits. It can kickstart careers. We've seen David Boone get 100 in a Prime Minister's game, then take off from there. And what you got to realise out of this game, one, you got the opportunity to play against an international team in Pakistan who've got some quality fast bowlers. And the other thing is, after the New Year's Test match, there's an opportunity at the top of the order. So there's a shootout. There's a shootout at the top of the order because they know in 3 Test time that there's a position vacant. And you don't often go into a game like this knowing this is your last chance to put your foot forward, because we go into the exciting part of the season now with Big Bash. But this is the last chance they have to play some quality red ball, to be a good batting surface. And let's see who aims up. Let's see who puts the runs on the board and takes that opportunity, because the one unique thing about this game now, they know there's an opportunity after the New Year's Test. So you just got to score runs, and getting selected in teams is sometimes it's got to be perfect timing. And for these 4 at the top of the order, if they score runs, they could find themselves playing a Test match after the new year.
I think last year we saw Renshaw make a ton. I think we saw Bancroft, who's played in quite a few, even dating back to about 2015 when I had a look. He performed well as well. Marcus Harris has obviously been around the mark. They're the 3 in terms of the openers, and of course, some speculation that it might be Cam Green comes in and there's a reshuffle of the order come the West Indies. But tempo has been something that's been mentioned in terms of someone that's compatible with Usman Khawaja. Do you think that's important? And is it over the career, or do you have a look at someone like a Cameron Bancroft, who in the last sort of season the bit has actually, I think, lifted his strike rate to about 59 in terms of per his strike rate? What do you look for, and what do you think will be working there?
Well, I think you got to look for the whole package. Yeah, yes, it's about scoring runs at the right time, and that's your currency. You need to be producing big numbers when the opportunity arises. But there's also how they fit into a team. Can they give you some overs with the ball? What sort of fielder they are? And all these things will be laid on the table when the time comes after the New Year's to pick that selection. The other interesting thing that's been tossed up of late is can you play Green and Marsh in the same team? Mitch Marsh's form in that Ashes was outstanding. The way he counterattacked at number 6 complemented not only Travis Head but Alex Carey there at number 7. So he'll look like he'll play the first Test, and we've invested a lot of time into Cameron Green. And if you look at his figures in first class cricket, he's got as good as numbers as anyone as a number 4 batsman. He averages 61 there, so don't rule him out of going somewhere in the order. So I don't think it's that cut and dry that Renshaw, Harris, or Bancroft. It might come from those 3, but it might come from a Green or Marsh changing their role.
We talked a little bit about resilience. You touched on that at the start of the podcast. Having a chat to Mike Hussey, another former teammate of yours, a week or
Yeah.
two ago, when we were assessing that World Cup, and he said, in terms of Cameron Green at 24, the workload that he's had, he said he sort of saw him in March and he was already looking fatigued. I think that was touched on, but then he thought that the World Cup, sitting on the sidelines throughout that campaign, he played 3 matches. I think he made 47 in his last when recalled against England sort of late in the tournament, and he's since come back and had that fantastic innings last week in Queensland. I think a 96, just shy of the century. That it's something that you learn a lot about yourself, and as difficult as it can be, this can build you up for greater experiences down the track. What are your sort of assessment of his season and what this might mean for him?
Yeah, if you look at his short career to date, I don't think he would have got a harder period in his career than what he has over the last 6 to 7 months. He spent, I think, the best part of 6 months away from home. He's still only a young man finding his feet at international cricket. He had the IPL, which there's a different expectation at IPL in franchise cricket where there's high demand on you to perform night after night. He had the Ashes series. He come back to the World Cup, and so he won't get a harder period in his life. And that's not just about his batting and his performance, but being away from home, being able to deal with the ups and downs of touring life. So he'll have a great opportunity now to sit back and reflect on that and take some good points out of it, take some points that maybe he can work on in the future. But it'll also give him a plan on how to prepare for his Test cricket, I think. If you look at the 3 fast bowlers that we spoke about before, they've had stages in their career where they've sat out of IPL and prioritised Test cricket. And maybe at times Cameron Green might have to do that depending on his workload. I know he's still learning the craft, and IPL is a great way to do that for him. But if the load does get too big, and he'll have to make some sacrifices along the way, I'd imagine to be peaking still at Test cricket. So he'll get great learnings from it. It would have been tough. It would have been a tough tour for him, but those tough tours are obviously can be your best learnings. And that's what I think we'll see with Cameron Green, because every time we see him on the international stage, he gets better and better each game. You got to remember he's only young and he hasn't played a lot of first-class cricket. So a lot of his learning is on the television in front of us. So, yeah, he's tracking in a good way at the moment.
Just in terms of managing workloads and managing, I suppose, stressful situation for players, you went through a personal situation a few years ago back when you understandably prioritised your family and headed home to be with your daughter on an Ashes tour. We've seen Pat Cummins in March with the India tour with his mother, unfortunately very well before she passed away. Mitch Marsh coming home midway through a World Cup. Are they things that cricket's got better at, and are they? And what can that do in terms of, I suppose, confidence and morale and camaraderie among teammates, and also administration and coaches? Does it foster good relationships and good cricket ultimately?
Yeah, I think that the one thing that I've grown up in the Australian team, and yes, you're out there to do the best for your country, and it's a privileged position we get to play in, but it's always been your family first. If something's happened, and we've seen it recently with some players that they made a decision to go back and be with their family, and that's always been the case. That hasn't changed since I retired. If something happens, that they're free to make that decision. And you got to remember that their sons, their fathers, first and foremost. So yeah, it's you got to remember the human side of the sport as well. And I think Cricket Australia's managed that really well over the last couple of years.
With a view to the summer, we've got Pakistan who's arrived, and there's been a little bit of I suppose off-field administrative chaos leading into it,
As
but
always.
as always, but they can perform at different stages. Now, whether they can deliver in Australia, it's always a tough ask for touring teams. Into the West Indies, there's a couple of tests in New Zealand in late February, early March, and of course on the horizon is another series against India. 12 months time. What do we take from what are you looking forward to the most in the next sort of, I suppose, 4 months, 3-4 months of this summer?
Yeah, it's interesting how you describe Pakistan. just there. There's a lot of chaos off the field. They put a selector on for 24 hours. He was taken off. They got a new coaching staff. And if we sit here and have a chat, you think Pakistan are no chance this summer with all the turmoil, but that's where they sometimes play their best. They're actually a really hard team to prepare for because the unpredictability nature of the way they play. They've got some world-class players in Babar Azan, Afridi up front with the new ball. So they'll need their best players to have big tournaments or tours in Australia. But they're a hard team to give you any form in. If we talk about their form now, you say, okay, there'll be 3-0 Australia, it'll be over in 3 or 4 days, most test matches. But we know with this Pakistan team, the unpredictability or the unpredictable nature of the way they play cricket, they could deliver anything. And that's probably the exciting part about going in to the first test match. We're a red hot team. We're settled. We've got our 3 fast bowlers. You've got a world-class spinner who's closing in on 500 test wickets, and you've got a settled top 6. So everything leads towards Australia dominating the summer, but Pakistan can be a hard team to prepare for.
Days of old, you would be standing 15 metres behind the stumps at the Wacker and getting thunderbolts from Johnson and co. As it flew through. The Optus pitch played pretty well from last year. It's not quite the hard red baked clay that it used to be. I think from down south somewhere, Bunbury or Harvey or wherever they got it. It's a different pitch.
Yeah, it is. But I think the one characteristic that have kept with the wicket is the bounce. We've had a couple of test matches there where the ball's flown through. We've seen New Zealand get rolled by the Aussies there. We've seen India play well on that surface. So what you like different characteristics. You like the wickets in the West to be fast and bouncy. And I think they've got that right at the new stadium. There's a bit of bounce there. If you bat well, you'll get value for your shots in that magnificent stadium. But if you bowl well and use the bounce to your advantage, it can be very successful for a bowler.
Just with a view to, I suppose, a little longer term as we sort of get towards the end. Been a difficult couple of seasons, I suppose, for New South Wales in terms of Sheffield Shield, and we're halfway through the season, and I suppose it's something very close to your heart as a very proud Blues. But Ollie Davies last week, great raps on him as a junior cricketer, an Australian under-19 captain, I believe, and clearly performed very well in Big Bash, etc. Been some raps there, but that effort last week against Tasmania, who have been very strong this season, where does that sit, and what does that bode in terms of New South Wales, but perhaps Australia longer term?
Yeah, he's a star of the game, and his jobs now is to be nurtured by New South Wales and allow him to play. What he did impressively last week in the Shield game, that wicket come under a lot of fire actually. Especially by ex-Australian captain Tim Payne about the surface. But players like Ollie take the surface out of the game. They're one of those unique players that no matter what the surface they play on, they're looking to score. They're looking to score runs. There'll be days it works and days it doesn't. But he'll always have in the front of his mind on how do I move the game forward. And that's exactly what he did. And I think he deserves it close watching. Over the next few years, he's got a Big Bash coming up, which I know you'll be excited for because he wants to hit every ball for 6, which is great for everyone watching from the crowd. But yeah, he's definitely a star of the future, and we've seen that the last few Shield games. It's been disappointing batting from New South Wales, but he's been the one shining light that to go out there and he's attacked. He's taken the game forward. He's put pressure back on the bowlers, and that's the one thing that. You can't coach a lot into kids that sort of mindset, and he's got that one that he wants to win and he wants to put pressure back on the game. So yeah, he's a bit of a favourite of mine also. I like watching him play.
No, that's not a bad thing. It's always good to see young talent coming through, and as you said, that was an exceptional performance last week. Let's hope post the Big Bash season that continues on. Thanks very much for joining the follow-on. Looking forward to hearing your analysis and I suppose commentary through the summer on Fox Sports, on Fox Cricket. A lot of cricket ahead. It's been a busy year, but it's a lot more to come. Always another over to be bowled.
It's an exciting summer. We've got a great team this year. We've got a few old favourites coming back. We've got Skull, who'll be around with his unique look on the game, and exciting to sit next to you. And we've got Ian Smith, who's arguably one of the voices of the game. You heard his call during the World Cup. We've got Wasim Akram, we've got Harsha Bogle coming out. So we've got probably the most diverse team we've ever had. But I tell you one thing, we'll give a good insight into the game, and we'll have a bloody good time doing it.